Hello, everybody. It's me, Julia, and today I'm here with Martin Dukes. And you have how many books out?
11 at the moment. I'm with one in progress.
Good Lord. So when did you start writing?
I published my first book in 2013. So it's been a little while, but I've had various breaks from it at different times. So sometimes I've been more productive than others.
And I'm assuming you enjoy writing, right?
Yeah, I love it. If I don't write anything during the course of the day, I kind of feel it's a wasted day. And I get progressively guiltier as the days go by. So
I love that. Okay, so tell me about the book that you have now and how it fits into the series and how your whole world works.
Well, I've written 3 series. Well, one 5-book series, one 2-book duology, and a 4-book Chronicles of Toxandria, it's called, which is my work in progress as well. I'm trying to write 16 in total, with four books in 4 cycles. Each of which takes place during a different era in my imaginary continent's history. So at the beginning of the history, there's lots of magic in the world, but in the last set of 4 books, it still exists, but it's much more difficult to find. And that affects very much what the storylines in those books.
Right.
The one I'm writing now, though, the last book I wrote in the series was this one. You can see that.
Yes.
When Dragons Dream. And my work in progress is the story of how the dragon that appears in the book I've just shown you first came into existence 3,000 years previously. So it's very much a prequel.
And so when you sat down to write all these books, did you know that was the direction you were going to go? Did you know this was going to be huge, or were you just like, maybe I'll just sit down and write one book, and then you figured it all out?
Yeah, what happened was when I was a teenager, I invented a strategy board game. And that board game took place on a big map, which was divided into 4 realms, each of which had a different culture, history, and traditions. And when I was in my 20s, I tried to get this produced as an actual game by a company called in the UK called Games Workshop, which they didn't do that, but I painted the map for it because I used to be until quite recently an art and design teacher, so I'm quite capable of that kind of thing. So I painted the map for it, and the project came to nothing, but the map then hung on my hall wall for the next 35 years.
Wow.
And it was only a couple of years ago that I decided it's got lots of little cities and things painted in them, about that tiny, about that big, but each one is little towers and temples and castles and things like that. And I thought to myself, I wonder what happens in this city, or what's the history of this place, and so on. So every day I'd pass by this map on the wall, and gradually I came to the realization that I needed to actually set down the stories which were occurring to me as I passed.
Wow, that's amazing. And so for all the inspiring writers out there, aspiring writers, as many books as you have, is there money in self-publishing?
Well, a lot of people have asked me, when I say that I'm a writer, they say, oh, that sounds like a lucrative profession. And I say, no, not really. It's a very expensive hobby.
Right. Yes.
I mean, by the time you've, I spend, I don't know how this translates as dollars, but I spend about £800 to get a book proofread and properly edited. Then I pay, when I can't design my own covers, which I sometimes do, then I have to pay for the cover to be designed and whatever other setup things there are. So it's quite an expensive process, as I'm sure you're well aware, getting a book actually out there. And then unless you're quite well known, and not very well known. You have to do a lot of promotions just to get people to pick up and buy your books, in the hope that you'll eventually get some name recognition.
Right. Try to get that traction. Your book, one or two, some of your books, I can't remember exactly because there were so many, was nominated for the Indie Book of the Year award on TikTok.
That's right. It was. That was this one.
Oh yeah, yes.
When Dragons Dream, which is I'm very happy with. It's nice to know that your most recent work is what people think is the best.
Right.
It'd be disappointing if your earlier work was.
And in all fairness, it had to have been published last year. So that might be why more of them didn't show up. But there were 150 books in that contest and yours got mentioned several times when I was putting them all into the list, so the main list, so people could vote.
Delighted to hear it.
Yeah, it came up several times. So, and I think it's Vicky. Do you know Vicky? She's fantastic. She's a good friend of mine on the island of Crete in Greece. Yes, that's right. Yeah, she is a doll, and boy, she was such a champion for you.
And for you as well.
Oh, she's so sweet. I think she's everybody's bestie. Her and her cat. I can't say her name though, her Greek name. Do you know how to pronounce it?
No, I'm afraid I always just call her Vicky.
Right, the one that starts with a B and it's got the.
No, it looks like it spells Biku, doesn't it?
Biku, yeah, and then her cat's name is Popo or something. I don't know.
That is called Poo Poo.
Poo Poo.
Very sweet, very sweet. I know she's absolutely devoted to him.
Yes. As I think she doesn't, I couldn't imagine her doing anything that she's absolutely not devoted to. She's just that type of person. I have things that I'm like, those are fun, but like everything she does is just out of her heart,
Absolutely. She's a very sincere person, isn't she?
Yes. I would love to go meet her. Fly all the way over there. Okay. So we kind of know, was there a specific inspiration for the book you have currently published, or is that just all really part of the entanglement of all the inspirations that you've been carrying around?
The way I'm working on my present series is that there's 4 sets of 4 books, or will be, and in each set there's one story set in one of the 4 realms into which the continent of Toxandria is divided. And each of these realms has a particular character to it, because when I'm not writing or reading fiction, I'm reading history. And each of the realms is inspired by a historical reality. So one of them is inspired by the Roman Empire and the Byzantine Empire, which came after it. Another is inspired by, well, it's a bit of a cross really between Aztec culture and Carthaginian. So they're rather a horrible and brutal race who like to sacrifice their children. Right. Not a very attractive realm. One of them is very much based on the barbarian kingdoms of Europe in the first millennium. And the final one is based on ancient Greece, really, on the Spartans. Oh, okay. So they've all got their own character.
And so if the Aztec is the most probably brutal, which is the nicest, which is the least brutal?
Well, I'm a big fan of the Roman Empire. So that's my favorite realm. It's called Erenor. And a lot of the things that happen there have a historical foundation, in fact. The first book in the series tells the story of a prince who really doesn't want to be an emperor. He's not really cut out for it at all. But circumstances mean that he's thrust onto the throne, and he's fallen in love with not a courtier, not a princess, or someone who would be at all useful in political line, but a simple tavern girl.
Right.
So it causes all sorts of problems for him, because of course the wealthy nobles of the court rather look down upon this poor girl, and that is very much based on a story of a girl called Theophano, who married a prince of the Roman Empire, in the 10th century AD.
And how did it work out for them?
It they actually achieved their ends of achieving the throne for him and getting rid of all the opposition, defeating the various foes that get in their way by use of magical means as much as anything else.
Oh.
But ultimately, the book is called That Which the Deep Heart Knows, because they both know in their hearts that although for his own self-preservation it was essential for him to become the emperor,
Right.
He's not really cut out for it.
Yeah.
And so, the story has a kind of bittersweet ending.
So speaking of bittersweet, so do your books, I'm assuming your books don't end with the typical like happily ever after or happy for now. So
Sometimes they do, but not always.
But not always. So they're not classically romance books, but do they have romance in them?
They do.
They
yes.
do. Okay.
That's usually one of the core themes in the books.
Okay.
I'm quite interested in that, and quite a lot of my characters are the main characters are female.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. What made you decide to write female characters?
Well, I spent 37 years teaching in a girls' school. So, and when I first started teaching it was the same school. When I first started teaching there were about 900 girls and women, and just 4 men.
Wow.
So, for many years, I've been in a very female environment. So, I feel that I feel well equipped to write male as well as female characters.
Right. I feel like you've probably seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of the female psyche. The female psyche is so complicated. It's got to be fodder for
Fascinating.
Fascinating. Yeah. As a female, I have found my fascinating psyche very costly and disruptive, and especially when I was younger. My psyche and my hormones don't always blend well. They don't always make the prettiest cocktails, but wow.
I know about those things.
Right? Yeah. Luckily, I'm past all that nonsense. My goodness. So, okay. So do you write are you writing like a book in each realm every time you come back around? Okay. I got you. Yes. That's brilliant.
60 is quite a target. So I don't know. I hope I live long enough.
You will. This is book what, 11?
No, this is book 5 in this series as I'm writing now. So I've still got 11 to write.
Oh, okay. Okay. You've got how many books do you have total under your already belt?
I have 11 already published.
But not all in this.
4 in this series.
Yes,
the
gotcha.
one I'm writing now, and 11 more to write. So if I get this done, I shall have, and I don't write anything else, I shall have 23 eventually, I suppose.
So how long does it typically take you to write a book?
About 6 months. I aim to write 2 a year now. It was fewer when I was at work, but I'm retired now, so I can devote most of my time to it. My wife will tell you that she wishes I didn't devote quite so much of my time to it, but that's what I'm doing.
How do you keep it all organized?
I don't know really. I'm not a. I suppose you've heard the term pantsers and planners before. I'm definitely in the pantser category, although it's a horrible word. So I don't plan things out in advance particularly. I just think about things, and when I have enough in the bank, as it were, to write something, then I write it down, and then I kind of think where it's going to go next, and so on. So I reckon if I was to just plan it out carefully in advance, I'd never stay with the plan anyway. So
right, I've done that. I've tried so hard, absolute regimented org charts, and the whole thing, and then in the middle of the story, I will get up. I will get a great idea and be like, "That makes so much more sense." Right? Yeah. So,
yeah. The muse takes you where it will, as they say.
Yeah, that's right. So after you've written them, how do you keep all these realms? I mean, do you have like spreadsheets that you keep all this information in?
Yeah, that's a good point. because when I'm writing them, I often refer to events from previous ones. I do have a kind of rudimentary system of keeping lists of dates and times, or lists of kings, emperors, and so on. So if I refer to a king agorist in one book, I can refer to him in a different book, and I know his work is there at the right time.
Right. So you're not having to I have to research this, and so I have to read 3 of my own books to figure out what I did, when I did it, and how I did it.
Yeah, I wish my system was effective enough to prevent me from having to do that. But yes, sometimes you have to flick through your own book.
You really do. And it's so funny that people think you remember everything that's in your own books. And it's like, oh, bollocks. I can't even remember what I had in my dreams last night, let alone what's in a book, that I wrote 3 years ago.
Yeah. I've been reading my current read is in fact your book. I'm reading The Jewels of January at the moment.
No, you are not.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
You make me cry. That's so surprising. What made you decide to read my book?
Well, I thought we were going to have this conversation. It would be nice to have something in common.
Oh.
So we have at least the first 8 chapters of your book in common.
Oh, wow. Well, I think you might have heard this already, but the waitress in my book is Renee Zellweger.
Oh, is that who?
Yeah.
Now I can picture her now. I now have a face for her.
Yeah. She grew up in Katy, Texas, which is very close to Austin, and went to school at the University of Texas and wanted to be an actress. And so she worked at that club with us the whole time I was there.
Well, I was intrigued by the semi-autobiographical.
Oh, yeah. It's probably, that book is about 85% true to the report. And all the people, all the main characters in it are real people.
Well, it certainly feels convincing. I mean, I love the dialogue and the detail. It really does conjure up a place and time very effectively.
Right. Somebody told me they liked they liked James. They were like, he feels like a real guy, like a guy.
Yeah.
His sense of humor and the things that they talk about. And I was like, oh, he was a guy's guy for sure. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very, very much. That's very sweet. And I promise as soon as I get done with Wendy Wills, do you know Wendy? Certainly you do. She's an author
the name is familiar to me. I can't say
all of the vampire and fairy books that are like Vampires Don't Do Brunch and Vampires Drink Their Coffee Black. And I've been I like to really kind of binge read people's series. That way I don't have to, when I pick up the next book, 3 books in between, it's like, what was that? Yeah. So I've read all 5 of hers right now. I did that like in a month, and also highly recommend. They're a little on the spicy side, which isn't how I write, but sometimes I can just kind of fast forward through it a little bit because sometimes it's just same thing with action scenes. If a book has too many action scenes, I'm like, oh, just waiting for the next one.
Balance is everything, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, right. It really is. And then I don't know how you would balance it out with the female brain and the male brain, right? Because I think men don't mind that many action sequences, and but yeah, it's tricky. But she's also, her books are so good.
I shall look out for them. Wendy Wills, you said, didn't you?
Wendy Wills, yeah. And it starts with these fairies. The whole thing has fairies and werewolves, and
I love those things.
The Grim Reaper and vampires and witches. So, but it's very modern. And so it's so great. Her next book is called Death Learned to Drive on the 405, which is a highway in LA. Yeah. So she's just so funny when it comes to her things. So, how do you come up okay, the book that you're fixing to drop, what's the name of this book that's coming out?
It's called The Rituals of Perdition.
And so how do you know what your books are going to be titled before you get there, or is it something that kind of comes out through the writing? It
usually emerges fairly early on in your creative process. And it's obviously because it's related to the content of the book. But it's about the sorcerer who summoned the dragon into existence, which we read about in When Dragons Dream. And he's a very tortured individual, because in order to become a sorcerer, you have to make a bargain with the intercessor, who allows sorcerers access to magic. And it's called the Sorcerer's Doom. And each sorcerer has a different and unique doom, where sometimes they're relatively innocuous. But in Chimeragor's case, it is that all of his friends and family and anyone close to him is doomed not only to die, but also not to be able to cross to the other world as well. And so he's tormented by these dreams in which he is wandering upon the verge of the river which separates life from death. It's called the River Halis. And his wife and his children and family are trapped on this. It's a kind of a sandy shore or muddy shore, and they're beseeching him to release them from their plight and blaming him for what he's done to them. So his ability to use magic has been bought at a very, very terrible cost. And what he's looking for is this ritual which allows you not to die and go to the next world, but just to disappear, to have no afterlife at all. Because in this book, it's maintained that the human soul is all but indestructible. And he wants to destroy his own soul in order to free himself from these demons of his own creation.
Oh, wow. But so, if he succeeds, then what is he?
Well, I don't want to give any more about the story. It's about he's required to play his part in a war which ravages the kingdom in which he lives. And he summons this dragon in order to oppose a dragon who has been brought to life by a rival sorceress who is a particularly nasty piece of work. So he's desperate to try to escape from life, but at the same time he's required by circumstances to continue to fight for a good cause. And his friends are trying to preserve him from doing what he's doing.
Right. Wow. I love it. Gosh. So many of my questions that are on my list, we've already kind of gone over because we've talked about kind of your process and all these books. How does the kind of the setting of the book influence the story and your characters?
Well, that's interesting. That's a very interesting question. I think it's the setting is certainly influential on the circumstances which the characters face. For example, in the realm of Varnacor, which is the one which has this human sacrifice element going on there, it's very much a male-dominated environment, and it's one in which people have a 60 years of life. They're not allowed to live longer than 60 years. And at the end of that period, they are required either to kill themselves or to be killed on the sacrificial stone. So that very much affects people and their behavior, particularly towards the end of that period. If you are particularly used to the state, you may get an extension. So you find that the leaders of this theocratic state, they're priests and so on, they are often quite old because they have allowed themselves the privilege of more years of life. So that's one thing. Also, the world is dominated by, as we see throughout time, really, in human history, a fundamental battle between good and evil, with each of those forces being represented by a god. You have Tio, who is the good god, and his twin brother Usanid, who is the evil god. And many of the stories in my series evolve from their rivalry and their attempts to fight out their own squabbles and disputes on the earthly realm beneath.
Wow. It's I cannot wait. I cannot wait. And like I said, Vicky loves you, and she's particular about her books, and so I know that they're going to be great.
Well, there's certainly a lot of world building going on,
Mm-hmm.
because as a student of history and someone who loves to read history,
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to set up a circumstance or a context, and then it's like a sandbox. So you create a sandbox, and then you place your figures, your characters in that sandbox, and you see how they are affected by circumstances, how they are affected by the currents of history, as it
Right.
were.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Um, this one, so many of these questions are kind of similar. Were there any scenes or elements of the books that challenged you, like writing about them? In either way, like emotional or physical, or you couldn't figure out how to work that out, or you wrote it and it brought up something in you, or
Well, if I talk about my duology, which is Hearts of Ice and Stone,
mm-hmm.
it's called my Britannia duology. The first book is Hearts of Ice and Stone, and the second, its sequel, is called Well of Souls. With that book in particular, I was just getting back into writing again. As I was retiring from teaching, I was trying to write something which people wouldn't have read about before. Now, that is a challenge, because almost every theme in human life existence has been explored in some way. But when I'm reading, I'm always looking for something fresh and original which I haven't encountered before. And when I started writing that book, I was trying to think of something which readers would not have encountered before. So I imagined a world in which, some of my ideas sound a bit morbid, I'm afraid, but see what you think of this one. In which, when people die, they may sometimes come back to life again, but only if the bodies are looked after in a particular way. So the bodies have to be anointed with a particular spice called sarcoxanine, and they have to be looked after in cool, dark circumstances, typically within underground tunnels and caverns and catacombs. And if the bodies are looked after in that way, there is a possibility that they may come back to life, either in a few years or even a few centuries. So that was a context. But what I was thinking about here is not so much those particular material circumstances,
right,
but what effect that would have on society. Because to have the bodies looked after in this way would be very expensive, because it would last for as long as it takes. And in order to have a body of a relative placed within one of these sleep halls, that's what they're called, it would be a major financial commitment to make.
right.
So essentially, what you have is a society which is divided between those who can afford to have their loved ones looked after and given the potential for another life, and those who can't afford it, whose dead will be consigned to the earth. And so that was the basic premise for that book. And into this world emerges a girl called Laura, who is able to tell which bodies are capable of being reanimated and which aren't.
What a gift.
Absolutely. And not only that, by placing her hands on the forehead of the dead, she can impart to them the spark of life, so that those who are capable of life are reanimated. Which is why the book is called Hearts of Ice and Stone, because she can tell which of the dead have hearts of stone, which may never be reanimated, or of ice, which can be thawed. And because it's a unique ability, and it comes to the attention of the authorities, it's extremely worrying for the authorities.
Right.
There's all sorts of political potential there, because, for example, the bodies of the royal family have been kept in catacombs beneath the palaces for hundreds of years. And if any of those could be reawakened, it would have dramatic political consequences. So some regard her as being a witch and some as a saint, and that's where the story comes from.
Seems like she might be in danger occasionally.
Just a little bit, yes. Basically, she's in big trouble, and she's arrested as a witch and condemned to death.
Oh my! Does she die?
I can't tell you.
Oh gosh. Next question. Now I have to know. What part of the book that you've just written are you the most proud of?
I really like the language I wrote it in, because the two main influences on me as writers are a writer of historical fiction called Patrick O'Brien, who writes stories about naval warfare in the 19th century, in the Napoleonic Wars, but also Jane Austen. I just love the classics of the 18th and 19th century. Mm-hmm. And so when I was writing this book, I was channeling my inner Jane Austen. That's quite a thought. And I would say I was copying her style, but my writing was influenced by her style. I love the way, the very formal way in which people spoke and wrote to each other during that period of history.
Me too. Those are some of my favorite movies and books, and I'm definitely that period of person. Anywhere where you can hear somebody say, "I will incommode you no more or no further," it's just like
absolutely
right.
Yeah, I read Pride and Prejudice over and over again. It's absolutely my favorite book ever.
It is. I remember, I'd heard so much about the book. I didn't read it until I was probably 35, believe it or not. I just wasn't a reader. I was a crazy stripper for most of my life. And so when I finally sat down, I read the book because of a movie called You've Got Mail with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. Right. And so I was like, okay, if everybody's going to talk about this book, I better read it. And like for the first chapter, I was like, oh, this is horrible. I can't even understand what they're saying. I'm not English. Why does everybody like this book? I just kept going. And by, chapter 3, I was just like, do not talk to me. I'm reading. It's like,
it really draws you in. And she's such a witty observer of her fellow humans, isn't she?
Yeah.
I mean, the characters and Mr. Collins and people like that is just wonderful.
Right. They're such strong archetypes with their own flair. And she does it so well, so unabashedly, ever since that moment, she was my favorite author ever, just ever. Did any of the characters surprise you when you wrote them? Did they ever want to take over or become something you hadn't planned for them? And do you let them do that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I do think that characters evolve during the course of the process. And whatever you have in your mind when you create them, when you give them their names and place them within the sandbox of the world you're working in, right. They often have a journey which you can't predict when you start writing, and they follow their own courses and they mature and grow with the book and with the interactions they have with the other characters there. So yes, they do surprise you sometimes. Do you find the same with yours?
Oh yeah, it was happening in my book quite a bit. It kind of scared me because I have never really written anything before prior to that. Some stuff I had to do in school, but that was it. And so when I sat down to write my book, I was not a writer at all.
That's not obvious, I must say.
Really? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I did not have a clue as what I was doing. And while I was writing it, occasionally one of the characters would start going off some other place, like, oh, let's go to Cancun or something. I was like, no, that's not what happened. We have to stick to the story, and it was just, at first I was like, what is it about these characters that they think they have their own ideas and thoughts? And still to this day, that kind of boggles my mind. Are they characters? Are they parts of dreams that we pull out and put into books? Are they? And like I said, my book is so autobiographical. All those people, Parker and Brad and they're all real, right? So I know those guys. They're like brothers.
Well, there's a real authenticity to them, I must say.
Well, and it's like, so for them to be real people and still, as characters, want to go do their own thing,
Mm.
it just, it made me feel like I was losing my mind. Like, no wonder. I just kept thinking, no wonder some authors kill themselves. I guess I was thinking of Hemingway specifically, but he had other issues. But you know what I mean? Like, and you're stuck in this story that you can't really share with other. Like, that was my biggest frustration, is every time I would tell somebody about the story and kind of get to then something would change and be like, oh yeah, that chapter, I retweaked it because it didn't make sense the way that it was. And really it happened more like this. And then they have to start all over. So yes, everybody that I have asked that question has said that their characters have, at one time or another, decided a different thing. Some people can go with it and let the character do that. I couldn't in particular, because all those people that are real were going to eventually read the book.
Yeah.
And be like, that's not who I am. That's not what I would do.
I can see that might go bad places here.
Yeah. So I had to rein mine in, but yeah, that is a phenomenon that is both so intriguing and a little scary for me. Anything that's outside of the realm that I can explain is a little scary for me, but that's okay. That's just my special skill, is being a little bit scared. Did you have a favorite scene or character or a chapter in this book that you enjoyed writing?
The one I'm writing now, you mean?
Oh,
or the one previous?
Oh, the one you're currently, whichever one is, I guess, complete.
No, yeah. When Dragons Dream. Yeah. I really like the merchant character. Well, obviously, I like the main female character, whose name is Oriala. But there's a merchant called Cupsidoran, and when he first takes her on, he rescues her from, or his people, his employees rescue her from a snowdrift, from freezing to death. And at the beginning of the story, she's very much indebted to him. She is socially at a much lower status, and morally at a much lower status, in the sense that she owes him her life. But during the course of the book, that relationship changes as it becomes apparent that she has an extraordinary ability, and one of these is to read minds, and but not only to read minds, but also to write into minds. So, and it's in this last in the set of books I've just finished, the first four. I say magic is used quite sparingly, but it doesn't mean to say that people don't have special abilities. And Oriala's, as I mentioned, is the ability to see what people are thinking, and so by the end of the book, she has achieved a figure of real dominance, really. And Cupsidoran, the merchant, is kind of a disciple of hers.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right, my friend, one last question. If you were to come across a brand new baby author, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would say that you need the 3 Ps, which are patience, perseverance, and persistence, because you will find that it's very easy to become dispirited when you're writing the book in the first place, because it requires a lot of perseverance, a lot of patience, and if you don't keep at it, you're not going to get it done. But I found that once I'd completed it the first time, after that it was much easier. So stay with it, essentially. If you go in there with the idea that you're going to become a best-selling author and make millions of pounds / dollars, that's the wrong thing to be doing, because it's almost certainly going to lead to disappointment. So you've got to ask yourself, why are you doing this? And my answer to that question is, I'm doing it because I love doing it, because I have a story inside me which I want to share with the world, and my reward is not necessarily financial, but the ability to allow others to share those stories with me.
For sure. Great advice. That is very good advice. Thank you so much. This has been such a joy. I know he and I had a mishap with our schedules, and I was quite disappointed because I knew that I always had wanted to talk to you because of Vicky and other people that talk about your writing, and I can't wait to read it. And thank you, gosh, for reading my book. I appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I will see you, hopefully, still on TikTok, but always on Instagram if not.
I shall look out for you.
All right, brilliant. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you.